first time I took my motorhome into France, I made a lot of mistakes. Some of them were simple and easy to fix, and others were less simple to solve and made me wish that I had done more research from reliable sources before I went travelling. Since then, I've been in and out of France multiple times with my motorhome, and it remains one of my favourite countries to explore. In fact, I even ended up living there for a couple of years during lockdown and that period that shall not be named. In this video, I'm going to share with you 7 mistakes to avoid doing when you're touring in France and what to do instead. If you're new here, hi, my name is Kat from Wandering Bird, and I help motorhome and campervan owners who want to make the most of their time on the road, particularly those who are looking to tour France and don't want to get caught out or make any mistakes. Right, let's dive in. So mistake number 1 is booking everything in advance or not booking anything in time. So generally speaking, there are 2 types of people who are exploring and touring France by motorhome or campervan. The first type are those who want to wing it, who like to explore and have some freedom, and there are some brilliant ways to be able to do that. France is totally set up. So if you have booked every single night at a campsite or even planned out an you're not giving yourself any flexibility or freedom to be able to change your mind as you travel, to move if the weather's bad or if you don't like somewhere. So I would recommend not booking everything as a very solid plan like you might in the UK, where it's less easy to change your plans and be flexible. However, the second type of people are those who are restricted, unfortunately, to things like school holidays, or they've only got 1 week, or perhaps you just want to go and relax on a beautiful campsite near a beach and just soak up some French sunshine. Nothing wrong with that. It sounds idyllic right now. And if that's you, brilliant. But do not go down the I'll just wing it and see where I end up route, especially if you want a campsite with facilities that's perhaps near a beach or that's got a kids club or anything like that, because they get booked up so far in advance. So if you are falling into category number 2, I recommend that you book up as quickly as you possibly can, find a campsite you like the look of, and just make sure that you have got a space reserved on that. And that way you don't turn up and find that there's no room at the inn for you. Don't forget, of course, that you can mix it up. You can absolutely book to stay at a campsite for a few days and then have a few days touring and exploring and using the AIRS system, which is exactly what we're going to talk about in mistake number 2. So mistake number 2 is not understanding and not utilising the AIRS system. And I fully get it, because I know when I first went to France, I couldn't comprehend the idea of driving to somewhere and not having somewhere reserved for the night. It's so alien to what we do here in the UK. Now, of course, having done it for years, it's brilliant and I love it, but I do totally get it if you're like, I don't really want to use them, they sound dodgy. What if I'm driving around at 2 a.m. not able to find anywhere, really exhausted? That was my concern as well, and I completely understand that. But I have to say, it just doesn't happen. There are so many spaces and places that you can use on an AIRS system. And if you don't know what an AIR is, it is basically an approved overnight stopping point for motorhomes and campervans. Sadly, caravans aren't allowed to use them in most places. And they basically are first come, first served. So you can't reserve most of them. If you want to reserve them, that's a whole other video. And I will go into the intermediate way that you can to reserve places like AIRS. But for most AIRS, you can't. So you can find them using an app called Park for Night. You can also use the UK app Search for Sites, and you literally look around an area that you want to go on, you find an AIR and you just head in that direction, and when you turn up, then hopefully there is a space for you. If you want to increase your chances of finding a space, then I recommend you get there early afternoon. Normally, certainly the most popular AIRS are busy by 3-4 o'clock. People like their siesta time and relaxation time. So if you get there for early afternoon, you've got a much higher chance of getting a spot. Don't forget, of course, that not every AIR in France is an area for a camping car or motorhome or campervan. AIR just means area. Literally, that's what it means. So you can get an aire de repos, which is for like games area. You can get an air de service, which is a service area. And of course you get the air to camping car. So make sure that as you're driving along and you don't get all excited just because you see a sign that says air, if it hasn't got the little motorhome sign on it, it's not going to be an air for camping cars. Mistake number 3 is not carrying euro coins with you. Now, I know this is incredibly difficult to do when you're coming from the UK. Obviously, we don't use the same currency. It's really, in fact, I think it's pretty much impossible to get coins from somewhere in the UK. But when you get over into France, go into a shop, go into a service station, go into whatever, and buy something little using a note, and then of course you'll get change back. Save your 1 and 2 euro coins, because in France, despite this being the mid 2020s, you still need to use coins all the time for things like if you use the services to, not so much for emptying your wastewater, but certainly for emptying your toilet and for getting fresh drinking water. Some of them have sort of modernized and you can now use your phone or your card to pay, but a lot of them still require you to put coins in, so make sure you save those. Now, mistake number 4 is easy to say, and I admit it's not so easy to do, and that is worrying too much about driving on the wrong side of the road. If you have never driven a vehicle on the other side of the road, I completely get how daunting it feels. I know I felt the same way when I first took a motorhome over into Europe, but I promise you, it's nowhere near as terrifying as you think it's going to be. Don't forget that all of the road networks are set up for you to be on that side of the road. So the signs are on that side, the arrows all point that way on the roundabouts, all the slip roads go that way. It's very, very difficult to get it wrong, frankly. Don't get me wrong, there are some times on some little country lanes where I'm sitting there going, which side am I supposed to be on? But normally, certainly on big roads, it's very, very obvious. So it's nowhere near as much of a worry as you might think it is. Talking of the road system, mistake number 5 is not doing adequate research and understanding the rules of the road when you're over here in France. Really good example of these is the Priorité à Droite roundabouts. Now, these roundabouts, if you go anywhere near Paris, I don't advise going in your motorhome or your campervan, but if you go into Paris and you can stand on the top of the Arc de Triomphe and you can see the roundabout that goes around the Arc de Triomphe, that is a Priorité à Droite roundabout. And that literally means that the people who are on the roundabout have to stop dead on the roundabout and let people who are coming onto the roundabout come on. I don't understand how it makes sense. And as you look at people going around the Arc de Triomphe, you'll see utter carnage. But there are other roundabouts around France, particularly I've noticed in the sort of northeast Brittany area, and normally they're the little roundabouts where you would least expect it. But make sure you have learnt what the sign is for Priorité à Droite, and that therefore when you see that sign you understand what is expected. Also, unfairly or not, expect the unexpected at other roundabouts. Even if they are not Priorité à Droite and there isn't a sign or anything like that, you will find some of the older French generation will merrily sail their Citroën onto the roundabout expecting you to stop for them. So just be aware that sometimes people might do things you might not expect. But of course there are other rules of the road that you need to know about in France as well. So make sure you do your research before you go. Mistake number 6 is not checking for things like strikes, public holidays, or anything else which might disrupt the flow of your holiday. Now, France, as we all know, are a country that loves to strike. They will literally strike about anything. And normally you can find out about upcoming strikes by just Googling it, using the news, or even I think there's a France website that actually will tell you about any strikes that are planned. Similarly, on public holidays, pretty much everything shuts. And France also do a thing called ponting the weekend. So if a public holiday is on a Thursday, as a lot of them are, they're not stupid, they often then will take the Friday off as well. So a lot of businesses will be closed on the Friday. So they are off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they have a nice long weekend. So just make sure that you have researched that so that you stock up, certainly with food. A lot of supermarkets and places like that will shut. Maybe not for the entire long weekend, but certainly for period over it. Also, the other thing to bear in mind is that a lot of shops, certainly big places like the French equivalent of B&Q, which is Bricomarché, they will shut for an hour or possibly even 2 hours over lunch and totally shut. So you'll turn up about 1 p.m. and then you'll have to sit outside for an hour. So just make sure that you have checked all of those before you head off to do any shopping. And mistake number 7 is not bringing the right gear or paperwork or equipment with you, which is a mistake that I have certainly fell foul of on the very first trip here. So there is a whole long list of paperwork you need to have with you, which is something that we don't have to worry about here in the UK. There's gear like high-vis jackets and certain other things that you have to carry with you, which again, we don't have to worry about here. And there's also stickers that you may or may not have to have, and it's worth doing your research on all of those. If you want a free checklist telling you all the stuff that you need to bring, I will leave the link for that down in the notes for you. So those are 7 important mistakes to avoid when you're touring France in your motorhome or your campervan. If you'd like to know more about my favourite destinations in France, places I recommend, places I've been, then you can join my free workshop I'm hosting on May the 20th. It's absolutely free to turn up. You can sign up using the link below, and I'm going to walk you through my favourite regions in France, places to visit, and just generally ideas for your next French road trip. So again, the link for that will be below in the notes. I hope that was helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you found it useful. If you do want to know more about touring France in a motorhome or campervan, this video will be helpful for you, and I'll see you there. Take care. Bye.